Touchdown, Chargers!
What's up, guys? Welcome into a Week 4 edition of Chargers Weekly. As always, joined by the voice of the Chargers, Matt Money Smith, as the Bolts get ready for the Super Bowl. Defending champion Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday. Going to be a little short-handed. And Money, before we talk about the Chiefs, we'll rewind to the Steelers. A great first half. I thought that the team executed their game plan, and then a combination of things in the second half. Game got away from them. Obviously, Justin Herbert leaving. Not ideal. After that, the defense on the field for a long time, some tough penalties, and just anything that could go wrong did go wrong in that second half.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of what the Chargers want to do to teams, right? And
Exactly.
That is, you hang tough and you keep it as a tight game, and then you hope in the end, as my dog is sticking her nose in here for some reason, in the end, you impose your will. And I think that's what happened. I thought, clearly, you mentioned the first half, and I know people are saying it's two halves of football. Yes, it is, but they were healthy in the first half. They were able to execute the punt's not a bad play, field position, take advantage of a broken play on defense, scoring the touchdown, and they dominated the first half. They went into the half up 3, but they had held the Steelers essentially, if you take out the 40 yards where they were playing prevent, and forced a 62-yard field goal attempt to 80 yards in the first half, to 9 carries and 14 yards. But going back to kind of the Raider game, and you wear it down. Najee will wear you down. It's not eye candy. When you watch Najee Harris run, there's nothing pretty about it, but then you start to see those 0s and 1s and 2s become 4s and 6s and 12s. And as you said, when you're on the field for 20 of the 30 minutes in the second half, eventually the dam's going to break. And, I'm not trying to, I don't want this to come off as making excuses. I'm just saying, I think when I think of that game, there's 2 pivotal drives that I think of, obviously, and a few pivotal plays. One, to me, even beyond the penalties, I thought the biggest play was, and this is going to really sound like excuse making and a Charger bias, TJ Watt was offsides on that sack. Way offsides. He jumped. You still have Bradley Bozeman's finger pointed to the mic before he snaps, and he's already leaned over the line of scrimmage. And Joe Alt never had a chance. He's still in his stance, and TJ's in his full sprint. That's a 3rd and 5 at the Steelers 49 after a beautiful pass over the middle from Heineke. You pick up that first down, and now you're at the Steeler 45, and you're 5 yards away from a Cameron Dicker field goal range to tie this game, and you feel a lot different than taking that sack and having to punt and put your defense back out on the field after them being worn out from a 6-minute drive. And so that to me was I wish, I would love to have seen how things could have played out had that drive been extended, a little bit more confidence for Taylor. And I don't know, kind of what we might have been able to see.
Yeah, and I go back to first of all, your point is spot on with the Chargers want to play football like the Steelers played football on Sunday. And what the Chargers did to the Raiders and Panthers, the Steelers did to the Chargers in that second half. And I think the other drive you're talking about is the 2 15-yard penalties that aided that go-ahead field goal. And first, I don't know what Khalil Mack's supposed to do in that situation. Yeah. And, as far as Derwin is concerned, obviously suspended for Sunday. This goes back to 15-yard penalties last year, and clearly the league has been monitoring Derwin. Safety is probably the hardest position to play in football right now. The bang nature of what you have to do, right? It's just the bang like split second decisions that you have to make in terms of playing football. You have to be physical. It's a violent game. We know Derwin. We know Derwin's not trying to hurt anybody. But those 2 penalties really aided the go-ahead field goal for the Steelers. And I just look at some of these stats. The Steelers had 4 first downs from penalties. The Chargers 0. Chargers were 3 for 11 on 3rd down. And then the running game. The Chargers want to make their money running the football. 61 yards for the entire game. And then the time of possession, 33-51 to 26-09, but you referenced just the second half.
Yeah.
And I think the defense just kind of wore down at that point. Taylor Heineke was put into an impossible situation going on the road in Pittsburgh with your left tackle down. Joe Alt eventually leaves the game, and you're down to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who play punishing defense. So it's one of those games where you have to chalk up. We knew it was going to be difficult. But now it becomes increasingly difficult on Sunday because we're going to get into these injuries led by the quarterback, Justin Herbert.
On Location, official hospitality partner of the NFL and the LA Chargers, offering Chargers fans the opportunity to lock in verified Super Bowl tickets and access to exclusive pregame parties with an official VIP ticket package. Take your pick from the best seats at Caesars Superdome, including the most coveted seats at the 50-yard line, and exclusive access from private pregame parties featuring big-name entertainment, chef-inspired food, and top-shelf bar to post-game field celebrations. Incredible experiences are coming in hot. 5-star hospitality. Go first class all the way from the moment you arrive in New Orleans. Enjoy personalized concierge services, excursion planning, reserved parking, a VIP gifting suite, and many more premier perks. Visit onlocationexp.com/SBLIX or call 877-373-5062 to secure your ticket packages today.
So Justin leads the game. Justin was 9 for 10 for 110 yards and a touchdown the first half. I mean, he was awesome in the game. Obviously re-aggravated the ankle. And then it just got
no
worse.
sacks. No sacks in the first half.
No sacks in
Clean.
the first half.
Wasn't really under that much pressure. And
then Rashawn goes down. And, you have your all-pro left tackle goes down. Joe Alt goes down at the end of the game. Joey Bosa goes down on the first defensive snap of the game. And here we are, a big matchup a couple of weeks ago. We're thinking, okay, this is going to be Jim Harbaugh versus Andy Reid. And it's just a shame that the Chargers are not going to be full strength for this. But it sounds like, in listening to Justin Herbert on Wednesday, he has every intention of trying to play in this football game. Yeah. And I know that there's an outside argument of, hey, if you don't have your starting left tackle and right tackle and your quarterback has a high ankle sprain and you have a bye on the other side of this game, why not rest him for 3 weeks, get ready for Denver, and just take your chances with what you got with the Chiefs this week? But when you talk to players and you talk to competitors and you talk to coaches, they have every intention of winning this football game, and it doesn't matter who's on the field. So you have to give Justin Herbert all the credit in the world for saying, you know what, that's great. I hear that talk, but I want to play, and I don't care who's blocking for me. I want to beat the Chiefs on Sunday.
Yeah, and I think you maybe adjust the game plan a little bit, protect them more, to make sure those edges are sound. Now with the Chiefs, it's interesting, right? Because it's never really been the edges. Now Karlaftis, good rusher, Chanel, who's on the other side now, solid rusher, but the Chargers have always had issue with the interior of the line against the Chiefs. It's always been Chris Jones. Now they may opt, and we've seen him move up and down that line. If they're smart, and they are smart, I would assume we're going to see a lot of Chris Jones on the edge. But we're going to probably see him opposite Foster Sorrell, or Trey was out of practice, the day before we're doing this pod with a foot. So if you're talking about Foster Sorrell and Alex Leatherwood as your tackles, you bet your tail that Chris Jones is going to be on the edge, and he's going to be coming over one of those guys. But Jim Harbaugh is a guy that's comfortable running one extra offensive lineman, 3 tight ends, a running back, and a quarterback. And, you run the option, and you just try to punish them and rush them. And look, that it's interesting. Like, the line is Chiefs by 8. I get it. There's no Slater. There's no Alt. But, man, this is a Chiefs team that, was a toe away from being in overtime against the Ravens and a 2-point conversion away from losing. That was a 4th and 16 penalty away from losing to the Cincinnati Bengals at Arrowhead, and was some questionable coaching decisions on continually going for it on 4th down instead of kicking field goals when the Chiefs offense had not been doing much in Atlanta all day from losing to the Falcons. So now I say all that, and then I also recognize the great thing about the Chiefs is it doesn't matter. Like, that's what makes them so exceptional, is things can be going wrong throughout the course of a game, and in the final 5 minutes or the final 2 minutes, they figure it out. Whether that's a Harrison Butker 59-yard field goal at SoFi and then another one in overtime, they figure it out. And that's to me, that's the special sauce. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, we know how incredible he is. Chris Jones, Andy Reid is a coach, but the most special attribute of the Chiefs is doesn't matter. And I think that's something that Mahomes and Andy Reid have instilled into this team. And it's something, and I lay all that out because I do think that's something that Coach Harbaugh and Justin Herbert can instill into a team. And it's something Lorenzo said on our Believe show that it's such a great, and I'm sure it's, said in locker rooms all over the place, but he says opportunity doesn't leave, just finds a new address. And when you have Justin Herbert back there and Jim Harbaugh on the sideline, I feel like the players believe that. Like, hey, we still got this defense. We still got Jesse Minter. We still held the Steelers to 80 yards in the first half, and it was a 13-10 game in the fourth quarter without our tackles and Joey Bosa and Justin Herbert. And an offsides call that could have changed everything. So I think there is still that sense of belief and opportunity presented that these guys can buy in, and you can try to make this thing a rock fight and keep it close and see if you can steal one.
They got to get back to running the football. Do you think they got away from a little bit in the second half? Because they had some runs in the first half, Bunny, that at least sustained drives, time of possession. But I know Justin went out around the middle of the third quarter.
It was after 2 drives. It was a drive and a half, and then he was gone. Yeah.
So it seemed like they just kind of got away from it a little bit. Didn't have -5 yards in the second half of the game.
Yeah.
So getting back to that running game with JK and Gus, I think Gus only had 3 carries in the game. And, we talked about Gus's impact in the game against Carolina. That's got to be higher. JK and Gus, they have to run the football, and we don't even know what the combination is going to be. As you mentioned, Trey Pipkins did not practice on Wednesday. So we have zero idea, maybe save for Zion at left guard and Bozeman at center.
I don't even know if that's going to happen.
Right?
Chris, they're talking about maybe moving Bozeman to guard, having Hymas play center, kicking Sawyer out to one of the tackles. So there's – I know that Coach can be a little, can be a little evasive when asked about anything that relates to injury or things that correspond with injury. But I do buy that he's like, hey man, we're gonna figure it out this week. So I think we very well could see Foster Sorrell at left tackle, Zion Johnson at left guard, Hymas at center, Bradley at right guard, Sawyer at right tackle. I think that's on that. Even that is on the table. So that's
wild.
Yeah, it's wild. It's not ideal against a Steve Spagnuolo defense that will blitz the bejesus out of you if that's what he thinks is the best way to go about it. Now, what can you do with a blitz? You can run right through it. You can try to just, if they're going to blitz, let's just hope that we find that lane where they're not running through and then get them back on their heels. So it's going to be an interesting chess match. You're talking about 4 incredible play callers on both sides of the ball, and Andy Reid, Greg Roman, Jesse Minter, what he's been able to show us through 3 games. And now I'm already seeing, I was reading an article on ESPN, and I hate reading it, but, God bless him. I want him to get the opportunity. They asked the question of, hey, who are some of the hot names that we should keep an eye on for head coaching gigs next year? And Fowler brought up Jesse Minter, that his name's been coming up in a lot of circles. And it's not a surprise to me at all, considering how great Mike McDonald's doing up in Seattle and what Coach Minter has done with this defense through 3 weeks. So, but I think that speaks to the respect throughout the league of, oh yeah, okay, so the offense is compromised. Defense, I mean, I got the offensive numbers pulled up right here. So yards per game, the Chiefs are somewhere around 13th this year. Passing yards per game, they are outside the top 10. Rushing yards per game, they are, where are they? Outside the top 15.
Yeah.
Points per game, there it is, 26. They just know how to score. So if Coach Minter's defense can continue to do what it does, like you said, -5 yards from the offense in the second half, and all he allowed was 10 points. If you can figure, if that defense is sound, and it's not going to be easy without Joey and without Derwin, and let's hope Joey can get back out there. But man, I really buy into him, man. I really do. And I think he can keep this thing close where maybe it can be a field goal game.
We talked about it all offseason too with the edge rushers. If one of them goes down, they're in good hands with Thule and Bud. And, we'll just see more Thule, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
Obviously you want Joey out there as much as possible, but I thought Thule played really good in that first half, getting more snaps in the Pittsburgh game. And I just go back to how, you were talking about the Chiefs, how they've won, these first 3 weeks. It was Xavier Worthy had the rookie had 2 touchdowns in week 1. They had a fumble return for a touchdown in week 2 against the Bengals. Kielce has not done much of anything, and it's a player that has
got 69 receiving yards through 3 games.
Yeah,
69.
Rashee Rice has had a good couple of games. He had a 44-yard touchdown against the Bengals and played well against the Falcons. But it's a different Chiefs team, and it's like you said, it's credit to Spagnuolo and Reed for finding ways to win. And they have, last year it wasn't your typical Chiefs explosive offense either. That Spagnuolo defense was a big reason why they won a Super Bowl. So getting after Mahomes with Thule and with Mac and with Bud, that's going to be critical to this game. And, and from a rushing perspective, you mentioned their numbers, Pacheco's out, right? Carson Steele, UCLA's Carson Steele, with Crocky J, his pet crocodile or pet alligator. 17 carries in that game against the Falcons. They just signed Kareem Hunt. I think they elevated him. So
he's going to play.
Their running game isn't going to look the same without Pacheco either. So, if they can stop the run and force Mahomes into a couple of mistakes, because it seems like the Chargers always get Mahomes for at least 1 or 2 when they play him.
Well, and you have to get him. That's the thing. And that's something that DJ has said on the game broadcast every single time we play the Chiefs. Keys to the game. Patrick Mahomes is going to give you some. You better take him. He's already got 4 interceptions through 3 games. And they're trying to figure out left tackle. They wanted it to be Kingsley Suamataia. Everybody that was at the combine said that guy's not ready. He's huge, and he's certainly an impressive physical specimen, but he is not ready for the NFL. And sure enough, that's proven out. Now, Wanye Morris is over there. There's a reason why they drafted Kingsley and started him, because they didn't think Wanye could. You got Jawan Taylor, a walking false start at the other tackle. He's got a false start because he's susceptible to speed. So you put Khalil and all that power opposite him. So, you got to get him, man. You got to force him into mistakes. And that was the one thing, I think that was maybe the one negative takeaway is, man, I just felt like the Chargers had so many opportunities. Those balls kept popping up in the air. And they finally got one with Bud, but it felt like there were 2 or 3 more that maybe you could have really got things to be lopsided. And just some of the stuff they got to clean up. Stone Smart not being on the line on that punt when you could have pinned him all the way back at the 5. I mean, that's just, that's not even, it's just procedural, so things like that. And they will, it's great coaching staff and great players, and they'll get everything buttoned up. So they've had issues with their tackles. Now, the one thing they've done is, man, it's as good, if not the best interior offensive line in the league when you're talking about Smith, Humphrey, and Tooney. So they got that thing locked up, and that's what makes him so darn dangerous, because, Mahomes can escape from that edge pressure if you can get it behind him and stuff. But look, it's not going to be easy. I'm not saying that, man, I really think the Chargers have this is lined up. No, it's not lined up for him. But Patrick Mahomes gives you opportunities. The Jesse Minter defense creates opportunities, and a physical brand of football on the offensive side with a bunch of tight ends, extra O linemen if you want, a 310-pound fullback and Gus Edwards and JK. If you can figure out how to make it work, they're allowing over 4 yards per carry as a team. So if you can figure out how to make it happen, then, tread water.
I'm going to read the injury report just to give everybody context as to what the Chargers are dealing with.
It's a horror film.
Yeah, it's long, so bear with me. Joe Alt, knee, did not practice. Joey Bosa, hip, did not practice. Junior Colson, hamstring, did not play last week, did not practice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys limited here. Darius Davis, hamstring, limited. Fulton, knee, limited. Herbert, ankle, limited. Hayden Hurst, Achilles, limited. Khalil, didn't practice, rest. Tito Obonia, neck, did not practice. Palmer, did not play last week, limited. Trey Pipkins, foot, DNP. Rashawn Slater, pec, DNP. Jasir Taylor, fibula, limited.
Yeah.
It's a long list. And you look at the Chiefs list, they have
0.
3 guys on the list that did practice. So they're as healthy as ever. This is going to be an uphill battle. And I think I tweeted this the other day. Like we talk about how unideal an early bye is. Couldn't come at a better time for the Chargers right now. And I go back to this Justin Herbert. Like, do you play him behind an offensive line that could be completely makeshift against the Chiefs, or do you rest him with the long view in mind, play the Broncos coming out of the bye, another division win potentially, and get him that requisite rest that you need for a high ankle sprain, Money? And listen, I know the trainers and doctors are going to make sure that they don't put him in harm's way to aggravate it further, make it worse than it already is. But I think it's a valid question. Like, is it worth putting Herbert out there against the Chiefs with this offensive line like this?
Yeah, I think it is. And I just go back to what Justin said in his presser and kind of what he said to us against the Panthers, or coming out of the Panthers in Charlotte, going into the Steelers. And that's, if I know I'm healthy enough and I feel good enough that I'm not putting myself in harm's way, then I'm going to go out there. If I don't feel like I can protect myself, I'm not. And I do think that, our dear friend Daniel Popper's article notwithstanding, I do think that played itself out. At least what he's telling us, that, yeah, today on Monday, it was better than the Monday after Carolina. Tuesday was better than the Tuesday after Carolina. Wednesday has been better than, and I think we saw the way he played. And so it's designing a game plan to protect him. And unfortunately, you lose your tackles. And I think, Rashawn was out there on that hit, and it was clear that he just, that thing wasn't working. Yeah. He could not get any strength in that left arm, and that's a huge concern moving forward. But, that's the hit that he took. He didn't expect it because Rashawn was back out there. He's like, oh, okay, just took a playoff, we're good. And it's like, no, he's not good. And he just didn't expect it. And I think going into a game, knowing, okay, I got Foster Sorrell here, had good games when he had to start against San Francisco, played really well. Got, Jamari over here, whomever it's going to be. I got to keep my head on a swivel. And this is going to be three-step bang. And it's going to be a lot of handing off. And, there's not going to be a lot of play action, 7-step drop, wait for that route to develop downfield, to whomever it might be, to Q. Just get that ball out and keep it moving. And so I think that's probably how they'll design the game plan. And he's such a smart guy. I don't, and yes, to a fault, he's got the warrior attribute of, I've got to be out there with my guys. I'll die on my shield, that sort of thing. But at the same time, I do think he recognized, and that's the other thing too. So it's better than it was last week, and you're going into the bye. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to play because I got to bye. So I'll get the extra week. This will be the week of rest that I need, and I'll get it. I don't need 3 weeks. I'll get this extra 2 weeks, and then we'll be ready to go in Denver, and hopefully I'll be, a heck of a lot closer to 100%.
Yeah, and I think just having a plan too in the quarterback's room. Again, Heineke spoke after the game saying, "Hey, this is my job. I have to go in at a moment's notice and be ready to go." But dude was put in an impossible situation. He just got here. He's learning the playbook. You're down. The Steelers defense pinning their ears back. So I think another week of Heineke getting up to speed with his teammates, with the system, and if, God forbid Justin has to come out again, Taylor can operate the offense a little bit more efficiently than that second half. I think that's going to be an important aspect to this upcoming week too, because if it gets away from them early, you have to look at the long view. I know that it's a week-to-week league, and we want nothing more than to beat the Chiefs, but you have to look at the reality of what the roster looks like right now and make sure that you can live to fight another day, especially when you have your bye coming up.
Yeah, and I think it goes back with Taylor, as I'm pulling up the play right now to look at it. The guy dropped back. What did he drop back? He dropped back 5 times and took 3 sacks. It's
impossible.
It's like, what do you want from him? And as I said, the third and 5 from the Pittsburgh 49, I'm looking at it right now. I wish people could get in this, and I'm going to do a free plug. I shouldn't, but it's why you need to get NFL Plus Pro, because you can pull up the coaching film and it's just fun to watch. I mean, literally, the guard is pointing. Is it Bozeman or is it? It's Trey. Trey is pointing, and he's already gone. It's like, dude, throw the flag. So anyway, and the point is that you get the offside call. You're now 5 yards from. I already said it. Yeah. That's my whole thing with Heineke. Is I think he just needed a little bit more confidence, not 3 sacks and 5 dropbacks. And he's someone who's, been in a playoff game, that started 16 games for Washington, that that's had that Heineke magic. He's had a little bit of that. So I wish he would have had an opportunity as opposed to, like you said, no shot. 3 sacks, 5 dropbacks, no shot.
Getting back to the running game too, Money. We talked about Dobbins, who was just unbelievable through the first 2 games, and he popped a couple in the first half, and we mentioned that they got away from it a little bit. But
yeah,
this being a Gus and J.K. game, they have to get back to that attitude of running the football. And some of these guys that we're going to see across the offensive line, keep in mind too, coaching matters, and we haven't seen Foster Sorrell with this new system. We haven't seen some of these guys, Hymas, and hopefully they can come in and play worthy of a starter, and protect Justin, open up some lanes for JK and Gus. And, I think that there's something to be said. I was listening to Chris Long's podcast this week, just talking about the schemes and how, whether it's an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator, like sometimes these guys are the stars in the league right now because of their scheme. Defensively, like you said, Jesse Minter, the fact that Joey and Derwin aren't there, it doesn't concern me as much defensively because of the way that they're playing collectively right now. We mentioned Bud and Tooley to spell Joey. And then, Elijah Molden, Alohi. I think the secondary is going to be okay. Just from what we've seen through the first, I would say the defense has played lights out for like 2 3/4 games. The end of that game in Pittsburgh just got away with them. I think they're gassed. And it was hot, it was humid, it was a long trip. But I do think that the defense is going to rebound with a good performance.
Yeah, my main concern with this game is the secondary. I think we've had a chance to watch them play opposite Gardner Minshew, Bryce Young, and Justin Fields. And I think kind of you saw there's a missed tackle play by Asante that led to a huge gainer. Sort of the busted coverage. But they were just worn down to Calvin Austin. But I think that's like Rashee Rice is a problem. He's a real problem, and that's okay. Who's going to draw that assignment? Derwin would have been nice to have for this game to continue to try to nullify Travis Kielce. I think the Junior Colson injury is huge as he's still dealing with a hamstring, because I think that goes a long way. He's so good at reading coverages and locking down like that one the hit on Freiermuth. You've got Denzel and Dayon, and Denzel's guarding the back and the flat, and Dayon ends up going there as well. That's what vacates the zone and allows Freiermuth to get that quick inside leverage on Elohi, and that's what led to that big play. So I think having Colson out there goes a long way. So he's sorely missed. That's my one concern is I don't think we've necessarily seen this secondary tested yet. And they're going to be tested. Oh, yeah. They most definitely are going to be tested. And we're going to find out in a hurry, if Fulton, Asante, and Ja, and now a safety rotation without Derwin is going to be able to keep up with an elite, even though the numbers don't bear it out, it's anytime Patrick Mahomes is taking the snaps, an elite passing game. And that's something that I bring it up because I think it's exactly what you said, right? You're going to have to scheme it up. And you're going to have to try to figure out, because I'd say you're probably tilting the advantage in that direction for certain.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kielce too. He's going to be due for a game at some point. Xavier Worthy's speed is a problem, and Andy Reid's one of the best play callers in the history of the NFL. So it's almost like pick your poison. They found different ways to win throughout the first 3 weeks of the year. I am intrigued to see who's going to run the football for them. If it's going to be Carson Steele again going 17 times, or if they're going to give Kareem Hunt more of the load, because their identity largely was kind of through Pacheco, right, running the football, and that has completely changed the last couple of weeks. So that element of their offense is another kind of key to the game that I'm looking at. Like, can they stop the run and force Mahomes to maybe drop back a little bit more than he wants to?
Yeah, I think I'd welcome the run. Let's see what you guys got. A bunch of light boxes, a couple high safeties. Just go ahead, keep running into it, and let's see if we can make some sound tackles and force you into field goals. The idea, inviting Patrick Mahomes to pass by stopping the run is always an unwelcome idea. I think it's one of the reasons why I think Pacheco's been so successful. It's like, hey man, we'd rather die by 1,000 paper cuts than 3 Patrick Mahomes extends the play, bombs downfield that we're so used to seeing that are just, heartbreakers and gut punches. So it's I'm trying to talk myself into it, and I just kind of keep coming back to identity and leadership and belief, and I think it's an intangible game for the Chargers to me. That's what this is. Intangibles, fight, physicality, establishing, like you said, Gus Edwards and JK. And let me see, I haven't really kind of gone through there.
I almost feel like it's almost like a time of possession game. I think that's why I bring up like stopping the run, because if you can force Mahomes to some 3 and outs, get the ball back, control the clock, and keep him off the field.
I mean,
they
have. Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, if Carson Steele and Kareem Hunt are going to rip off 5 yards, 6 yards a pop and control the clock, and then the Chiefs can kind of dictate what they want to do offensively, at least if you stop the run and get Mahomes off the field, maybe a few 3 and outs, you can kind of dictate the game a little bit more with Gus and JK.
Yeah. So, you look at the Falcons could not run the ball 3.3, they rushed it 25 times for 82 yards. And then the Bengals only rushed it for, I think under 4 yards per carry as well, for like 85 yards, even less than that. Let's see, where are my team stats? The Bengals rushed it for 74 yards on 22 carries. So Chiefs did a pretty darn good job of bottling up that run. It was, the Ravens that got him for 185, and so much of that was Lamar Jackson. So
Lamar was 122 of that.
Into that. But I think, you still, and the one thing that I see in both of those box scores and both of those games that were in the balance in the final minute is what? They stuck with it. 22 rushes for the Bengals. For the Falcons, they rushed it. Let's see, what did they got for the Falcons? It's 33 rushes to 39, or that's this 25 rushes to 29 passes. Like, I think you have to stay balanced. You have to against this Chiefs team. So that's, don't turn the ball over, win the special teams battle, win the field position battle. And,
what are we saying about this Chargers team if they find a way to win this game, Money?
Well, I think that's the thing, right? That's part of it. They're not supposed to. They're 8-point underdogs. They're down both their tackle. They're down 3 of their 5 best players, Joe Alt, Slater, and Joey Bosa. So you're not supposed to win. Yeah. Like, you're supposed to walk out of this saying, okay, we're 2-2 at the bye. 3-1 would be great. We'll take 2-2 and still have a bit of a favorable schedule coming out of the bye. See if we can build up to 4-2, maybe 5-2, and get after it. But if you win, okay, how about that? Chargers knock off the Chiefs, who have been struggling, who haven't found their passing rhythm yet. Travis Kielce's been a disappointment. Isaiah Pacheco is out. They've got really Rashee Rice. Xavier Worthy's getting tossed all over the field because everyone's just playing him in press right now. And like, you can extend those conversations. You can really put a magnifying glass and cast doubt on this team if you can find a way to win. They're not supposed to win. So I think that's sort of the way, you come out, you got to go to Denver, you got to go to Arizona. Then you get New Orleans, who was dragged back to earth against the Eagles at home. Then you get Cleveland. Then you get Tennessee. So I think there's that. You lose, okay, let's just get to the bye and let's just get these guys healthy. But you win, and oh my gosh, what a 2 weeks you have of confidence building, getting guys ready to go, and just come flying out of the chute in week 6 in Denver. So
I want to say that every Herbert Mahomes matchup has been decided in the fourth quarter, right? It's
for the most part, yeah.
A 1-score game. So, the fact that Justin wants to play, you always have a chance. You always have a chance when he's on the field. And we've seen Justin with, I think, maybe the worst performing offensive line he had was his rookie year, and he put up historic numbers. So yeah. Justin can mask some of the potential issues that you may have on the offensive line. So I think if Chargers fans want to hang their hat on something that's positive, it's that number 10 intends to play right now as we tape this on Thursday. He intends to play against the Kansas City Chiefs. And if he can get Palmer back to go with Quentin and Ladd, you get an extra weapon on the outside. The running game hopefully can rebound from a tough second half in Pittsburgh. and you can keep this thing close, and who knows what can happen. Like you said, Cincinnati's 0-3 right now. Should have won that game in Arrowhead. Atlanta had every opportunity to win that game last week. And Baltimore, frankly, like you said, they're a toe away from going to overtime and potentially beating the Chiefs on opening day. So Chargers have always played them tough. It won't be easy with the injuries, but if they find a way to win, 3-1 going into your bye with a heck of a lot of confidence.
I was trying to find as you were talking, and you're right. It is a ton of confidence. So here we go. I finally found it. Sorry, I should do this before these things, but you just bring things up, and it plants these seeds in my brain. And so they've run 92 snaps in 11. So they're, for the most part, they're in 3 receivers. That's 53% of the time. They're running, but then right behind that is 22. That's their second most popular formation. So 2 backs, 2 tight ends. And then you've got some 31 in there. You've got some 13 in there. So I think instead of seeing that 11, 53% of the time, I'd probably flip that. I think you're going to see that 22. I think that's going to be more likely. You're going to see that 22 40% of the time. And that's probably 2 backs, 2 tight ends. I think that's probably the way this thing's going to go. Would be my guess with the ankle and how they want to run this thing is just get the tight ends out there, get your fullback out there, get your back, your fullback, your running back, get as much pass protection as you can, load up, go beefy, and just try to out physical them and, stick with it. And a punt's not a bad play, and lean on Coach Minter in your defense and see if you can just kind of keep this thing to a field goal game and try to steal one in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it could be ugly for a little bit, just like the Raiders game was ugly in that first half, and they stuck with it. That stick-to-itiveness is something that they're going to have to do against the Chiefs, and don't get into a game where it's Mahomes airing it out, running the football at will, and them dictating the terms. The Chargers want to play a certain way, exactly how the Steelers played last week. They need to dictate what they're going to do.
I wouldn't mind just a lot of Scott Matlock and Gus Edwards elevate Tucker Fisk and those massive calves he's got, and just keep punishing him. Just continue to put licks on your opponent in the hopes that you can wear them down. And it's not, look, they got a lot of beef in the middle of that line too. That is one thing that goes underrated is how good that defensive front is, because we tend to pay attention to edge rush guys that are farther away from the ball. But when you get into the Kansas City depth chart and, obviously we know Chris Jones, but you get, Mike Dana, who's supremely underrated in the middle of that line as well. Derek Nottie. I mean, these are guys, Nottie is, what do they got? Nottie 317, Derek Nottie. They got big freaking dudes in the middle. Dana, who's a great end. And like I said, you get him on each side of Nottie, and it's pretty impressive, man. It's pretty impressive what they can do.
Money special teams too. If Chargers are at such an advantage too. I think it's almost a wash with Dicker and Butker, right? But both guys can launch it from 50 plus. But if you can win the field position battle with Darius Davis, maybe score on special teams or get the offense in favorable positions to where we know a field goal is not a bad play in this game. You're only a couple of plays away from getting into Dicker's field goal range if you have a successful kickoff or punt return. So that's another, I think, factor in this game is, can they win the special teams battle against Kansas City?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there is any question. Let's see, get one of those Matt Araiza monster punts that outkicks his coverage and get after it, man. Let's see if we can get that going.
Yeah. All right, guys. It's not going to be an easy task on Sunday. No. But if they can get the 3-1
great opportunity.
I can't wait for the next week of Chargers Weekly.
Exactly. It's a
maybe
great
a
opportunity.
Mailbag or something. Anything else to add, Money?
No, just, show up, be loud, get excited, and, you need the crowd. So, the Chiefs fans like to travel. They're the Super Bowl champs. LA's a destination. It's certainly not Kansas City, and that's why people want to be here and not there. So expect them to have a solid contingency, but we know the Powder Blues have really kind of come out en masse as of late. So be loud, try to make it as a home field advantage for these guys, and let's get physical, create some turnovers, like you said, win the game on special teams, and man, really put the Chiefs on the talk shows and the debate shows about what's wrong with the Chiefs, and did Travis Kielce spend too much time with Taylor Swift, and why isn't Rashee Rice suspended for 6 games after crashing a couple cars at 100 miles an hour, and on and on and on. So let's get that going.
All right, guys, we appreciate you listening and watching. As always, we'll see you at SoFi on Sunday. For Money, I'm Chris. This has been Chargers Weekly.